competition, which is also increasing. You have intentional efforts from the central bank with the instant payment program. And we had COVID, so that was unplanned, depending on what your theories are, whether it was man-made or natural. But there are forces that need to work together, and sometimes they work at varying degrees, at different paces, but at some point they converge, and you see that network effect. But underpinning all of the thing was actually the previous presentation, taking a very customer-centric approach to payments. We had that in our current national payment system vision. I think the industry wanted, over the past 5 years, to take a customer-centric approach to how we offer payments, how we design products, and how we make payments more accessible. So it really comes down to not just looking at customers from a demographic point of view, but from a psychographic point of view. And I think that's what Harish was speaking to. I've seen, I think, in our industry, we're very focused on your demographics, males, females, geographical placements, but we don't always take the time to actually understand the jobs that the customer is trying to do, the jobs to do. What problems are they trying to solve? They don't want to make a payment. They're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to show love to whoever maybe they're sending money to. So that's the job behind the payment. And when we compete on jobs to do and not features, you're likely going to create that stickiness, because from a behavioral point of view, from an emotional job point of view, I will likely use your product over and over. There's a reason why certain people wear Rolexes for 30 years. There's an emotional job that they want to do, as an example, and they don't change to anything else. So I think that's really a part of the scaling to your question. That rapid scale needs to be underpinned by really understanding the customer and meeting them at their point of their needs and understanding their context, as Harish also mentioned, understanding their context and what challenge or job they're trying to enable, and if you've designed your product around that, they'll hire your product to actually use it to do the job that they're trying to do. So I think customer centricity is very important. We need to make payments meaningful and very purpose-driven and very human-centric. I think that's probably the banker, the customer of the future with the new generation. They're incredibly sensitive and emotional in the choices that they make. And I think that will help to rapidly scale digital payments adoption if we truly understand the customer. Everything else comes after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy. Very interesting. And I like the way you positioned it as well, to say that rapids should be seen in small chunks, because certain aspects will take time as well from a development perspective, a rollout, and then also tying back to customer centricity in terms of product design, because the human mind is a fascinating one, and it's also how we learn about that mind, and in an ever-evolving world, how the psychology surrounding that works as well. Especially when looking at things like artificial intelligence, where it's one thing to search or do research using AI, but it's another thing to entrust the AI bot to manage your finances for you. So definitely worth noting. Ramesh, any views on your end?
Thank you. Thank you, Darius. Good afternoon, everybody. I think my colleagues have pretty much said everything that needs to be said, so we can call it an early lunch. Do you all agree? Let's show our hands of that, if you all agree with me. All right, so I think in terms of my field of expertise or experience and how do we support the rapid scaling of digital payments, etc., I think fraud risk management historically was a very reactive discipline in any of the commercial banks and any other institutions that we employ this discipline. But if you look at over the last 5 to 10 years, there has definitely been a need to tip the scales from reactive to proactive. Now, if I had to use one word to support how do we encourage and support the rapid expansion of digital payments, etc., I would use the word responsibly. I think if we don't do things responsibly, we would be giving in to what the fraudsters want us to do. So if you look at the previous speaker, money is very linked to the needs of people, how our mind functions, etc. If you look at the fraud triangle, that's exactly how it's based. It's based on the 3 pillars, right? Pressure, motivation, and opportunity. Now, fraudsters capitalize on that. They look for the vulnerabilities. They look for us as, for example, commercial banks wanting to go to market first with a product. They're looking for the opportunity for mobile network operators to offer mobile banking quickly to your customers. But how often do we looking at risk assessments, ensuring that the risk assessment and the viability of that product or that solution is ready for our customer? So Namibia is a small number in terms of population. What is our numbers? Not more than 3 million, if I look at the recent count. How would a drastic or a large fraud event in a commercial bank impact our economy today? It would do so quite heavily compared to a larger country with a larger population. South Africa has got 62 odd million people. But a large fraud event or a large cybersecurity event or a large data breach can impact Namibia on a larger scale as compared to South Africa or any other neighboring country. So I think fraud risk management does require a responsible approach, but it does require a collaborative approach. We need to work with business. We need to work with our partners in the ecosystem to ensure that our citizens are able to now become world players. We are in a global society. We're not living in isolation. So we cannot think that we must move at a pace that is only prescriptive to Namibia. We got to be in the world stage. We got to play in the world stage. So we got to move according to their pace, but do so responsibly. We got to make sure that we are looking at all of the risks that will potentially harm our economy and our institutions, and more importantly, our citizens. So we spoke about citizen client-centric. That is first. So when a client wants to bank and make a payment, we want to give them the ability to bank anywhere, and I'm using the word commercial banks because I'm in a commercial bank, but this applies to any payment originator. We want them to be able to pay anywhere, any device, anytime. But you also want to be able to give them the trust and the security of executing that payment. A customer wants to know that when I make a payment to my colleague on my right here that said, that payment has a purpose. It's to pay a school fee. It's to pay a bond. It's to pay your parent back home. Yesterday, I had to make payment back to South Africa to pay for my expenditures because I'm here in Namibia on a secondment. So I still have expenditures back home. And those are my commitments. So that payment has a purpose. When I make that payment, I'm requiring my enabler, be it my bank or my mobile network operator, to allow me to do so with trust, knowing that it'll reach its destination for the intended purpose it was meant for. Now, fraudsters want to divert that. They want to break that trust. And when you break trust, it takes a long time to recover. When somebody is not faithful, it takes a long time for that trust to regain and to get committed again. So I believe trust is important, responsibility is important, but also collaboration in making sure we stay with the curve, we stay ahead of the curve, we stay with the global trends and making sure we remain relevant. We don't want to become irrelevant. We want to be relevant to the day and tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that perspective as well, and in having a more responsible approach as well, looking at that trust and security for the end user. Now, Emilia, this morning the Honourable Minister mentioned it briefly as well, but it's regarding the commitment to review the national broadband policy. And being cognizant that this is not just a technical change, but it's also an opportunity and a bold step towards digital inclusion. How does the network expansion coverage strategy look like in supporting digital payment inclusion and participation?
Okay, so there's a number of things that we have put in place, and the goal is 100% population coverage. And I must emphasize that it's population coverage and not geographic coverage, because geographic looks different because of the unique landscape that we have. So in 2022, Minister had given us a target that by the year 2024, at least 80% of the Namibian population should have 4G coverage. We have exceeded that target. As we speak, 91% of the population does have 4G coverage. Now, it becomes a bit more complex because having coverage is one thing, but actually utilizing the coverage is another thing. Because what we see is that of that 91%, it's actually only 60% of the population that have a 4G enabled smart device. So you'd find that people are in 4G coverage, but then they still have the Tamagotchi. We were able to achieve this in two ways. Number one is through license conditions where we issued spectrum, and that came with universal service coverage obligations. The second way in which we have done it is through the discontinuation of legacy technologies. So like your WiMAX and all these that are always circling. So we were able to discontinue that, take that spectrum, relicense it, and then make it a condition that they offer more broadband related technologies. We have also done a lot of work around market diversification because, as we know, for a long time the market has been concentrated in two mobile operators who are state-owned, so all your competition theories around that were true. But as of 2 weeks ago, we saw the launch of a third mobile operator in the country, which instantly has 70% population coverage. We are excited because what the public does not know, which we know, is that since that launch, there's actually a very soft competition war that has started to evolve. You'd receive tariffs from one today, and when they see that the other one has launched, then the next day we receive some which are lower by the other one. So we are excited about that because it does two things. Number one, it increases consumer choice, because the consumer is now no longer just limited to what was there, but there is more options. But what it does, which we hope to test in the next quarter, is its impact on quality of service, because that is also important as far as the ecosystem is concerned. What we have also done to expand network coverage is with the launch of the Universal Service Fund, which was launched earlier this year, although we already started with the work last year. Now, phase one of the Universal Service Fund started with the award of a bid to MTC, who was the successful bidder, to put up 9 towers across the country. And the last tower on phase one will go live in March of 2026. But once those 9 towers have gone live, instantly we will have about 10,000 new customers who currently, as we speak, do not have a mobile device. The impact of the fund is that it's not about people who are at places where you must go on a tree or do this. No, it's people who, as we are speaking currently, they do not have mobile devices because they absolutely have no network. And that initiative is then also aimed at increasing population coverage and also just ensuring that we have more people online. But what we have picked up is that getting people online is not sufficient. It's about adoption as well. When you put up a tower and you say, now we have 10,000 people online, what does that mean for the economy? Or what does that mean for you that is in the banking sector? And that is what we call meaningful connectivity. And it has to do with issues around digital literacy, which we are also rolling out as a complement to the network expansion, because we don't just want people with connectivity and they don't know what to do with it. We also have a lot of initiatives that are complementing that, which speak to digital transformation. Now, people think that digital transformation is one big thing that is going to happen one day and we'll all be saying, come out, digital transformation is on the street. No, digital transformation is about small steps. When you call us to an event like this, how do we RSVP for the event? Small things like that. That is what will cumulatively lead to digital transformation. And those are also the initiatives that we have started to put in place. And primarily digital literacy. Because people think digital transformation is about Facebook and TikTok and all. No, digital transformation is much bigger than that. But we have seen that as a country, digital literacy is one of those things that may hold us back in achieving our digital transformation journey. So in a nutshell, those are some of the activities that we are doing, but complementary to that is we'll also be launching the public key infrastructure network, of which e-signatures is an element, and I think the minister spoke about that. We also see that as complementary to our network expansion work, because we want to get more people online, we want to get e-commerce, we want to get digital payment systems, but if the online environment is not a complete value chain, is not a complete ecosystem, then we are going to have pockets of what we are trying to achieve. And this is also why I think Kendi spoke about SIM registration. We are pushing out all these elements so that we can make the online ecosystem as comprehensive and as complete as possible. And so that when the consumer goes on, then your experience is full and you don't have to do this part you do physically and the other part you do online. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Emilia, and congratulations to you and the team on the great strides made in actually exceeding your targets. It sounds very promising, and all the developments that are taking place. You mentioned something which sparked something within me, and I'm going to go to Candy now. In terms of where you've mentioned coverage does not always mean usage. And it's a similar saying that says access does not always equal usage as well. So Candy, perhaps you can share with us, what will it take to shift habits and drive widespread adoption of digital payments? And specifically, if we look at, the likes of small businesses, informal traders, and then also those cash-dependent consumers.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were still busy. Right. Yeah, so when we talk about financial inclusion, a lot of the times we might think that it's just about access, but it's multifaceted. So again, back to your human-centric approach to payments, you don't just want to make your products and services available, you want to understand what is it that people actually want to do with the service you're providing them. And in order to drive usage. If we are seeing a low uptake on certain products in usage, it's either that product was designed in a way that doesn't meet the customer's needs. That's a possibility. At times, there are other factors that are absent that prevent our customers from using the service. So, for instance, you might speak to convenience and use of ease of use. We are very cash-centric still. And a lot of people still see cash as very, very convenient. And it's very, very easy to use. The digital literacy cannot be understated. In order to see uptake with digital products, people need to feel safe. They need to feel that when I use this product, my funds are secure, my information is secure. I think we probably also underestimate the perception around technology. From a psychological point of view. The trust and security is very important. So we might just think that, okay, maybe it's fees and charges, maybe they don't have access to it, but it's probably other underlying reasons as well. So that's why I'm so passionate about psychographics and really understanding the reasons people use a product and the reasons they don't use a product. When it comes to your informal traders and small businesses, it should be seen as more than just accepting payments. They should see payments or banking or digital payments as a way to manage risk, as a way for convenience. So what value would they be getting from using your product, as an example? So again, even from a business point of view, they have that jobs to do. They have that psychographic. And it's not the payment they necessarily want to receive or make. It's the bills they have to pay. So can we offer services that enable them from an administrative point of view, value-added services, to structure their bills, assist them with recons, provide them with data insights on their behavior as a business. So, yeah, I think it really comes down to understanding how we can best serve these customers and making sure that, yes, they have access to the product, they can afford it, perhaps if that's not the issue. But how do we make sure that we also build stickiness into the product? Sometimes we think that let's just give our customers a very basic product. They just want to make payments. But there's a lot more that customers want to do. Because payments, again, is a way of life. And there are many, many things that we do on a daily basis that digital payments can enable. So we have to build stickiness into our products and services.
Thank you for that, Candy. And you're spot on. I believe it's also key for us to understand the psychology behind the adoption and the product design. So ultimately also looking at what takes precedence, like you've mentioned, fees, charges, the timely settlement and execution of payments. But beyond that, where does trust place? Where does security and data privacy place as well? So very, very important questions and topics of discussion. I would now like to afford the audience the opportunity, if there are any questions. We have a roaming mic, so if there is anyone that would like to raise a question, we've got a couple of hands over there. So just your name, you can introduce yourself and then raise your question. And if it's specifically directed to a panel member, please feel free to mention that. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Valancha Finis. I'm from Standard Bank. My question relates to the psychographic information that we require. So we know that Namibians still largely depend on cash. And I just want to find out whether any work is being done in terms of finding out why there's still such a slow uptake to digital payments. In the digital public infrastructure sessions, I suggested that the government should take up digital payments because they are the largest service provider to Namibian people. But we also generally know it's our very vulnerable and older population that they serve financially, especially, or children in terms of grants. So what can we do in terms of finding out? Because from a commercial bank perspective, I only have information of the people that already bank with me. It's very difficult to get somebody to give you information, especially of that nature. So what agency can take up this mantle and find out what the issue is with technology? Obviously, fraud, we know, is one of the biggest indicators, but other factors that can give these industries, the financial service industries, the input that we require in order to not only improve our services, but our products as well. Maybe we just need to add a few new languages to our products so that the uptake can go up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valancha. Candy, would you like to go first, or shall I?
Yes, I can try. You mentioned something very important where I think as financial institutions, traditionally, historically, we're very used to customers coming to us. People must come to our branches and so forth. But what we're seeing in the payment space, especially with the disruption of fintechs, they tend to be very customer focused, so they go to the customer. And I think some of the approaches that we should use, and I know the Bank of Namibia did do a study, I think 2 years ago, around the cash versus digital payment. It was published in the newspaper, I think some of those results. And there were a few reasons as to why cash is still prominent in the country. When it comes to your psychographics, you have to understand that there are different jobs to do. Some jobs to do are functional. So I'm looking for access, I'm looking for affordability, I'm looking for certain security features. Other jobs are emotional. Maybe it gives me a certain status, maybe it gives me a feeling of safety. It helps me to deal maybe with certain anxieties as an example. And you have social jobs to do in terms of maybe accessibility and where you might be as an example. So it really takes for us to not just look at the customers within our ambit. You can start there and you can actually run your, I think on one of the slides we had payment diaries. Why do you do what you do? Why do you use this product and not that product? Why do you like accounts and not wallets and vice versa? You can do focus groups. You can have consultancies. You have people that are experts in understanding psychographics. And I think every institution should have expertise in-house to actually take on this type of work. So it's a matter of primarily observing behavior. So your data becomes very important. If your products are intuitive, you will get a lot more than just volumes and values and so forth. Your apps should be intuitive so that when you design them, you're able to get other information that tells you a lot more than just demographics. You can assess how your customers are using it. Do they, do certain payments at a certain time of the year, a certain time of the month? Where do they shop? Why do they shop there? Is it because they live close by and so forth? So data is very important. And having customer discussions, really understanding why do you do what you do? That's really the ultimate question. What problem are you trying to solve? And so forth. So we have the information. We see behaviors all around us. We just need to pay attention to it because it takes a lot of work. But it's very fuzzy. So we tend to focus on the more concrete, quantitative aspects of payments. But I think if we can build a national payments ecosystem based on, again, human-centric payments, product design, we'll likely achieve the vision that we're trying to achieve in the long term, and we'll achieve sustainability and scalability. Thanks.
Thank you, Candy. And to add perhaps to that as well as, a couple of years ago, the buzzword was financial literacy and what we're doing towards that. But as we can also see in today's day and age, that it's just not financial literacy, but also digital literacy. So how do we upskill those that are not skilled enough to make use of these digital services? Any additions from our other panel members?
Yes,
Emilia and then
yes.
Ramesh.
Yeah, I think that the other issue is also generally just about why is there such a slow uptake of technology? The International Telecommunications Union always measures countries' ICT development index in two ways. There's what they call universal connectivity and then meaningful connectivity. Universal connectivity is about what is your population coverage, but meaningful connectivity is about what is your adoption rate. And what we have seen in the Namibian context, number one, has to do with our culture as a country. Do we have a culture of utilizing technology and adopting technology and making our processes and our way of life central to technology? That's the first consideration. The other one is also about what is enabled. So if you are a bank and you introduce a banking app, do you have alternatives to the technology process? because those alternatives sometimes may create a lax culture in terms of adoption. Of course, we have to be mindful of the 9% that are still not connected, but I think it's just about the cultural environment that you set up in deploying that service. The other one has to do with trust. A lot of people do not trust technology, especially when their money is concerned. I would rather go to the bank, withdraw, I must see my teller, they must tell me how much is left, and they must give me that cash. I do not want an app, I don't know where this data is stored. And it's up to us, those that are providing the service, then to inculcate this culture of trust so that it encourages people to uptake. The other one is knowledge. Some people do not have a problem with uptaking technology, but they are not knowledgeable about what does it mean. And it happens to all of us. The other day, I picked up that some of the banks, you can actually withdraw from a till in the supermarket. It's knowledge. If you do not know, you do not know, and you will not be able to uptake that. But the other one, which we have been doing a lot of work in collaboration with the Bank of Namibia, is around affordability, not only of the service, but also affordability of devices. Because in order for me to have a mobile app, I need a smart device. But how many of us can afford a smart device, at least one that has key features that will support the technology provisions that are enabled? So we have picked up that those are some of the issues, and we are pushing for change management from a country level to really say, if we are going to go into this space, these are the elements that we need to have in place. And then also a lot of cross-sectoral collaboration. Like, we need to be speaking to one another. We had a chat earlier with NAMPOST that they are taking over the payment solution. What does it mean for CREN that NAMPOST is implementing that? And if we're not having these conversations, then we'll see that the culture will not change.
Thank you for that, Emilia. Very insightful as well.
Thanks, Darius. So I'm gonna use the word trust, and I'm gonna go back to my brother. So my brother's older than me, and we were having dinner one day in Sandton when I visited Joburg, and yeah, so it came time to pay the bill, and so he took out this lump of cash, and he wanted to pay the dinner bill. And I took up my phone, I tapped the machine, and he's still counting the cash. And the bill was paid, and I said, can we go now? So I asked him, why do you carry a lump of cash everywhere? So my brother, who's older than me, goes to the ATM when he gets paid, and he draws out 90% of his salary, and he keeps it at home. Now, this is a person who's living in South Africa, and you would naturally assume that he is aware of the technological advances that we have made in banking and payments, and you can pay your bond from your phone, and you can pay your bill at a restaurant. You can even share the bill, the bill between ourselves at a dinner table, right? And it comes back to trust. Because I asked him, and he said he doesn't trust tapping a phone. Because he's heard horror stories of someone walking behind you and skimming your card from your wallet. But we must sit here and think, is that a once-off situation, or are there other citizens in Namibia that have heard horror stories of how an elderly person who has just retired has received their pension and was defrauded for their pension? Would they choose to go to cash, or would they choose to go to electronic medium of payment? I think trust, knowledge, awareness, education are all of the words that we can bring into the equation to try to see whether those are the stumbling blocks, the inhibitors that are preventing us from becoming where we want to be, the desired state. We want to see 98% of our population embrace digital payments using the device in your hand, the watch on your wrist, to tap your payment and walk out of the store. Reduce the circulation of cash, because we do know how expensive cash is. It also introduces its own risks of robbery, etc., harm to life, etc. But I think those words, education, knowledge, empowering our citizens to understand that this is the way to go, and we as a community can arm them with the right sense of security, with the trust in the platform, in the device that they're going to use, to say, use your phone, use your card to make this payment, because we've enabled the security in the background for you to know that that money will go to your child's college to pay for their education. So I think those are the things we need to really start making strides, and we can't do that alone. FNB can't do it alone. Standard Bank cannot do it alone. We're doing it in our pockets, and we're doing it maybe well in our pockets, but siloed mentality is not going to achieve the desired state. We have to be collaborative. We have to partner with each other, with industry, with banks, with non-banks. We have to partner with CRAN. We have to partner with our Payments Association of Namibia. We have to partner with our Bankers Association of Namibia. We have to partner with the central bank to ensure that the message is consistent, it's unified, and we are singing from the same hymn sheet. Because right now, I think it's a very inconsistent messaging, which is giving more confusion to our community. It's like, that is safe. No. Mobile banking is not safe. In actual fact, I think if we give a consistent messaging, we'll begin to see the desired effect of it.
No, thank you so much. And like you've mentioned, it's that uncertainty, and as uncertainty rises, fear also rises. And that's where the deviation comes in. So it's about how we as a collective stand together to actually instill trust, to promote awareness, and then also push the education agenda in terms of digital literacy, but also being aware of any potential fraud risks in that regard. There was a question at the corner, then we'll take the other question at the back. So if we can just get the roaming mic to the corner, and then we've got one last question there in the center. So we've got 3 questions pending, but we'll afford the gentleman. You can go ahead for now, and then we'll move to the corner.
Thank you, Simon Kapenda from Upper Payments. This is all a good discussion, but it's not as often we do this as possible, like I've seen in the US, where I know most is that people, they get together more often and discuss this. Now here we do it once in a while. So I was just trying to add to Ramesh what he was saying. All of this is good, but the continuation we should have an association where we meet regularly, collaborate, discuss, share ideas. Like, I don't know if Namibia we have the FinTech Association of Namibia. So if we can have that a platform where we come and discuss and meet and share ideas, that would be a great platform for us to share. And then we have a body where we issue like educational programs, educational ideas to the general public. And this should include the regulations, regulators, the banking institutions, and the private sectors, forming an association that will spearhead all what we're discussing about.
Now, thank you for that contribution as well. So it's about how we better collaborate with each other through a relevant forum, and then also what initiatives we formulate from those forums as we discuss them. There was a question there in the corner. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ernest from AirPay. I agree with Candy with regards to the actual last mile. So the last mile becomes crucial, especially given the fact that there's some significant reduction in brick and mortar infrastructure to service the unbanked. And if these gentlemen behind me can just give me a minute to finish my question. It becomes crucial. And my question really is what the commercial banks are doing. So we just want to understand as fintechs what the commercial banks are doing from a non-banking or non-bank fintech open banking partnership perspective to make sure that we can support one another in really delivering the financial services to the actual user on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Candy, would you like to go?
Thank you very much for that. I think the open banking conversation is pretty much, I would say, generally in its infancy. But I think with the policy initiatives, we are put in a position where not only is it a requirement from a regulatory point of view, but I think we're starting to recognize the value that the relationship between banks and fintechs can actually forge. So it really comes down to what value both parties are able to see, but putting again the customer at the center of it at the end of the day. So I think Bradwin will probably be able to speak to that. My colleague, he does have his hand up for his question, but he's a bit more intimately involved from our perspective. So, yeah.
No, thank you, Candy. I guess it's also just changing that mindset from competition to collaboration, ultimately, which is a global theme, as we know. I think in the essence of time, the Director of Ceremonies would like to proceed. So I would just like to thank the panel for the opportunity. Those that did have questions, please feel free to engage during the networking after this event. Hopefully our panelists will still be around, so please do feel free. Just on behalf of myself, thank you so much, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the discussion.
Darius, and to all our panelists, thank you so much for elucidating further on this topic. I think it's been quite insightful. The point I'd like to raise at this point, if you could kindly stay on the stage just for the quick photo op, as has become tradition. Thank you so much for just give us a minute or so for a quick photo. I have the distinct honor, while that is taking place, not sure what that is, but it's a payments function. It could be anything. I have the distinct honor at this point to invite the Director of the National Payment System and Financial Surveillance at Bank of Namibia. Barbara is going to really walk us through her reflections of today, what it has meant for her, but what it has meant for the Namibian journey. I'd like to keep it short, allow her to elucidate on her key points. As a reminder, I think everyone saw the QR code. Do recall that this is a collaborating event. If you could jump onto Menti and answer some questions that have been posed there, that would really assist the team in building a strong narrative regarding today. Barbara, please, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I stand between yourself and lunch. I am really happy to see that most of the seats are still filled. So that tells me something about this event and this hunger for that conversation to take place. So thank you for that. It's either, having heard all of this, it's either you are very scared now, or you are very excited, or you want to be a regulator, or all of the above. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, throughout this morning, had different speakers. There's a thread for me that came through with all of these speakers without fail, including the panelists, the two panels that we had. It is around discussions of trust. And when you are in the central bank and when you are a regulator, you would know that we are in the business of trust. We don't produce money, we don't do monetary policy, we don't do all of those things. We sell trust. Trust in our financial system. Through your financial system, that is how you strengthen your economy, you get investors into your country, and you become a thriving jurisdiction. The rest of the other things built into that, whether we are working on financial stability, monetary policy, and all of that, it is to actually ensure their trust. And payment systems is absolutely at the forefront of this. if you don't have trust in your national payment system, colleagues, then we can just as well close up and yeah, and I don't know, do what. But having said that, our Deputy Governor really brought home the fact that payment systems is a breach. It's a breach between formal and informal, but also cross-border. That came through very importantly. The Honourable Theophilus, she left us with 4 key things that we need to, that should be at the heart of how we do things. We need to make sure that when we design, we heard a lot about designing products and human centrism and all of those good things. But design, we need to design for accessibility and affordability. We need to foster collaboration. That's the other thing that I heard throughout. And collaboration not just amongst regulators and between regulators, but regulators and public sector and private sector, but also to the gentleman who asked this question last, within private sector, collaboration should also happen. So collaboration needs to happen at different levels within our ecosystem. Our Honourable Minister also indicated that build trust through security and digital literacy. We have heard, even the last panel, our CEO from Crane was very big on that. The speakers there, digital literacy, we need to focus on that. We need to ensure that we implement supportive regulatory frameworks. And I am so happy to have heard from some of the speakers, as well as what came through, that regulators are working towards smarter regulations, coming up with smart regulations. I hope in payments we had smart regulations so far, and we can build further on that. But that is something that is very central. We've heard from Crane. They are also moving into smart regulations and smart enabling policy positions, which is really very good. I won't necessarily go into everything that everyone has said, colleagues, but Chris highlighted some key waves, 7 waves that we need to be aware of. And these would be very critical conversations, colleagues, as I am looking forward to in a week's time when we are going to confederate again around the crafting of our national payment systems vision for 2030. This is actually a prelude to that. So I want you to bring either your scareness, how scared you got today with all of these changes, or your excitement, how excited you are about stable coins and whatever we have heard here today, and these waves, how we are either going to ride them and how we will ride them, or whether we will duck them, or whether we will be ripped away by them. I hope not. So those are the key conversations that we will be having within a week's time, where we need to then look at how we can contribute to crafting our national payment systems vision for 2030. And all of you are very, very welcome to join us there. Sorry, I need to just quickly unlock my phone. This is the thing of smartphones. Unfortunately, you have to end fraud and security. So, colleagues, before I close off, I would just really like to thank all of you for being here. Payments is a collaboration, and we have seen that happening today in practice. Your being here up until now, I wish we had a full day session, because there are so many things that we still need to talk about. But we also need to respect your time. You have also, you need to go and make money. Some of us need to go and set policy and regulations so that you can make better money. And keep you in control so that you don't exploit the customers. And we need to make sure that our consumers are also optimally protected. So, but while saying that, I would really like to thank you. I would like to thank our partners who have made this day possible, particularly the media, logistics around it. I won't necessarily mentioning everyone. I would like to also thank my team who really has worked tirelessly behind the scenes. It is not easy to put together something that looks so seamless together. There is a lot of stress, a lot of, I won't go into all of the nitty-gritties of what goes into that, but all I can say is, guys, you have done a good job. So thank you for that. Let us give ourselves a very loud applause. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude therefore by saying today we have really shown that Namibia is not simply keeping pace with change, we are driving it. Payments are no longer just transactions, they are the backbone of trust, inclusion, opportunity. What we've built together here and what we have heard here is more than knowledge, it is actually momentum. The message is clear. Technology alone is not enough. Our success will rest on strong infrastructure, smart regulation, and above all, collaboration across the ecosystem. If we continue to work together with courage and vision, our payment system will not only be resilient, but a catalyst for growth and inclusion for every Namibian. Let us therefore leave here committed to turn these conversations into action. And that action we will discuss next week when we are going to meet again over 2 days, where we will deliberate on the key strategies of what our national payment system should look like over the next 5 years. With those few words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. There is lunch that we have made provision for. Please do stay for that, and let's continue the dialogue that we have started. Thank you.
When it's all said and done, there's a questionnaire. And so right at the end, please be reminded that we still have our Menti QR code that was up. Barbara, thank you so much for having closing for us. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do have refreshments waiting for us outside. I'd like to put up the question. I think the first one is already on the screen, making sure everyone can see it. If you could kindly humor us and just quickly go through these questions. There are only 3. Thanks again. If I may, how do we make the design of Namibian payment system more people-centric? Use 1 or 2 words to describe aspects of a people-centric payment, and you can see some answers have already trickled in. You could have fooled me, but the key word I kept hearing everyone say today was trust. It's good to know that there's more than that. I love that instantaneous as well. I think that's quite key. It meets the needs, and as was shared earlier, it needs to empower. If we can go to the second question as well, the team at the back, if we can share that. See some responses are yet to come in on the second question. If we are to design payment systems that can scale with resilience, what are the key innovations we will need to embrace? Landslide victory so far for high reliability. Cloud computing seems to be garnering momentum. And obviously the next generation of cybersecurity. Dedicated high reliability seems to be a key point for those within the Namibian landscape. I think it's quite keen to see all these answers trickle in. If you don't mind, we can go then to the third and final question. In 1 or 2 words, what should be the key theme of the next national strategy and vision for Namibian payments? Okay, guys, you can't say trust, okay? That's mine. It's a perfect example of nudging people into responses, David. Thank you so much for your interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, we have formally come to the end of our program. As mentioned again, we've got snacks on the outside, something light for each one of us. Barbara has confirmed with me that, ironically, you do not have to pay for the snacks. So this will be absolutely gratuitous. All that she asks is that you do pitch up next day for the 2-day workshop. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good afternoon.